open revolt in India's Statistical Commission. Two non-government members, PC Mohanan and JV Meenakshi, putting in their papers accusing the government of withholding data on job creation and sidelining their roles.
Officials have claimed that these, be it the GDP data or be it the economic survey or be it the employment data, all these data were being bypassed through the commission and they were not being presented to the commission members.
The point of contention? The back series of the GDP data being released without consultation and the alleged suppression of employment data. Chairman of the National Commission of Statistics, PC Mohanan, speaking exclusively to Mirror Now, claiming that the commission was not able to discharge its duties and unable to maintain public trust.
Me and the other existing member of the commission, we thought that the commission is being sidelined or not being involved in key statistical decisions, and we were not really discharging the responsibilities of the commission. The commission is supposed to do, expected to do.
But refuting the allegations, the government in return claimed that the two members had not raised any of these concerns earlier. Mirror Now asks, is there an attempt to suppress data on job creation? Let's debate.
National Statistical Commission is an autonomous body that was set up to devise ways of analyzing key parameters about a country's economy, about the way business is being done, about the kind of performance that various sectors are seeing, about what kind of factory output we are looking at, about the number of jobs that we are creating, about the country's growth itself. So, for example, this specific association generates reports on employment, unemployment, price statistics, unorganized sector performance, and statistical audit of the India Index of Industrial Production, or IIP as it's known as. Now, all of this may sound dull and complicated and lots of numbers, and it can be dry for many. But let's not downplay the importance of this organization. So what is the concern tonight? The 7-member commission has been reduced to just 2 members now. This is after 2 more non-government members resigned yesterday after an open revolt. They claim that the NSC has been sidelined by the government. Yes, reports also suggest that the latest and the biggest flashpoint was an employment survey that was done, analyzed and submitted to the government but never published. A jobs data report that's ready and with the government but is not being given to us. That is their claim. So far, the government has only said that none of these issues were raised in the meetings between the ministry and the commission. That has been the response. So the questions that we ask tonight: has the body that is supposed to work on statistics been excluded from the GDP calculation? Has the report on jobs data been suppressed, that is, as is being alleged? Does the government simply want to shut down this setup like it did with Planning Commission? And if so, and if not, then where is the employment survey that the National Statistical Commission claims has been given to the government but is not been released? That's a good evening to our panelists: Vinod Sharma, political editor of Hindustan Times; Santosh Mehrotra, professor of economics at Center for Informal Sector and Labour Studies at JNU; Gopal Agarwal, spokesperson for the BJP; Subhan Khan, spokesperson for the Congress Party; NC Saxena, also a former Planning Commission member; and Professor Aman Agarwal, director for the Indian Institute of Finance. Now, let us first try and understand what we are talking about here. And Mr. Sharma, let me come to you first. Here are 2 people who say that we are being excluded from the GDP series calculation to this. Nobody is listening to us. We are not being consulted. We are not being involved. How big a concern is this?
It's a big concern. You, in your introduction to the program, called it a revolt. No, it's an indictment of the government by 2 recognized professionals whose services the government itself sought and were crucial to planning, to setting up policy, to allocation of funds for various programs and schemes, and to come to a determination as to what is the status of jobs in this country, what is the level of unemployment in this country. Remember, not too long ago, the Estimates Committee of Parliament, led by a senior BJP leader, Mr. Murli Manohar Joshi, had in fact also noted that the government was withholding data from that very important parliamentary panel. So now it turns out that the government is in possession of data and it has not shared that data even with the Estimates Committee of Parliament. That committee which goes into various budget estimates of various ministries and departments. It is all about public money, your money and my money. So I think government clearly is in breach of privilege of Parliament by keeping, by not sharing data which is available with it with the parliamentary panel. Similarly, I think that these two professionals who have quit the National Statistical Commission, they are recognized for their work in various fields, including agriculture, including environment, health, employment, and with them getting fed up with the short shrift being given to them by the government, I think it's time for us to think. Government has to come out with a clear statement as to what were the impediments in it not keeping this very crucial oversight body in the field of statistics and data, official data, within the loop. And when the government's data, the integrity of it is under question.
Yes.
You see, the integrity of the data under the NDA has been under question. And this is the data on which investors rely to come and invest in our country. Now, if this is the state of affairs, I do not know on what path the economy is being put.
Yes.
It is going to go down. Are you going to get investments from international manufacturers and investors or not? So it's a serious issue, and in Parliament it should be first raised before the vote on account or whatever you are calling it, the interim budget all is presented by Mr. Piyush Goyal.
Yes.
Which is day after.
Yes, absolutely. Well, the government has decided to call it the interim budget. Now, we're not too sure what will come in the, what kind of announcements does an interim budget have. But that being aside, here is a letter that has been written by Mr. P.C. Mohanan. This is dated 28th of January and it's addressed to the President. And it says, in the recent past, NSE has been sequentially bypassed in key functions that it is supposed to perform. Recent events relating to important initiatives such as GDP back series and the conduct of economic census have not received the oversight of the Commission. Also, the report of periodic labour force survey that is prepared by NSSO and approved for release by the Commission in early December as per the release calendar has thus far not been put in public domain. Professor Agarwal, we've had many conversations about the jobs situation in our country, and we've repeatedly spoken about how there is no concrete data. Now, this obviously is not in all-encompassing data. Even if it had been released, it would have included few sectors and spoken about the employment there. But do you think this is very, very concerning that even the data that is available is not being given to the people today?
I fully endorse and appreciate what you are saying in terms of the information coming to the public domain in the right format, the way it is supposed to be. But there are 2 points which ponder me. First of all, the important issue is that why was this not brought to light when it was not brought to the public and the report was already prepared last year? Why have they come out at this stance when elections are just due? Secondly, the important thing which is there is in their interviews, wherever they are giving an interview, they are not stating that there is a fudging of data which is taking place. They are only saying that we were not consulted, we were not given the provision of oversight which is our job. So that is certainly a question of the committee which needs to be tackled, that the committee is not given this due onus of the fact that they are there to oversee things. But they have nowhere in their statements made the fact that it is being fudged or there is a wrong thing which is happening in data. Thirdly, the question of base change, which is always there. It has happened in the US when the inflation data was changed from CPI to another factor, CPA, deflator, and so on and so forth. So this has always been a debate. Should we change the measure? Should we change the base? And not only in this government, even in the previous government, when they tried to change a base at the stance, there was a question, should we allow that base to be changed or not? So now that base change is allowed in statistical methods to adopt and get the realistic picture of what is happening in the country and not be just dude with it. Many a times it is even inflation indexation which takes place, and that changes the whole scenario. So please, my contention is, yes, there is an issue here, and it needs to be looked upon, and I think the government should take it seriously. But it is not a question of the fudging of data or misappropriation or misrepresentation of data. The issue is that the committee has been created for a purpose, and they have to disburse their responsibilities, and if they are not being consulted, that it needs to be looked upon. Why is the committee not being consulted, and why are things happening without their consultation?
So
is it someone within the committee which is overpowering the committee, or not the chairman? But it should have been brought at the right time, because that employment data which you're talking about also.
Yes. I'll come back to you,
just a second.
Professor
The employment
Aman Agarwal.
data which you're talking about also is 2016-17.
Santosh Mehrotra, do you agree that we don't know if this is about data being fudged or it's simply about few people not being included? But then these few people were hired and were given this job for purely the reason of doing the statistical calculation, and if there are questions being raised about how the GDP backdated series was calculated, then these are the people who could have looked into it, but they weren't included.
You have to understand the context in which Mr. Mohanan and Dr. Meenakshi have resigned. Let me give you that context. First of all, for the last 8 years, for the last 10 years, the Labour Bureau of the Ministry of Labour has been publishing quarterly economic surveys, which were then stopped at the end of 2017, and none of the quarterly economic surveys which give you employment data on a quarterly basis for 10 sectors have been either carried out or published. Point one. Point two, the Labour Bureau of the Ministry of Labour was also assigned the task of carrying out annual surveys on a sample size the same as the National Sample Surveys, Labour Force Surveys. And that last survey, which was done in 16-17, has also not been put up on the website of the Ministry of Labour. In other words, both the sources of data from official Government of India that we had until now, which is annual survey of the Labour Bureau and the quarterly survey of the Labour Bureau, have ceased to exist, or they have been done and the data has not been released. That's the second point that your viewers need to understand. Now let me turn to the issue of the National Statistical Commission and why these members have resigned. Please understand that in 2017-18, the National Sample Survey Organization carried out the much-awaited survey of the labor force, which they normally in the past used to do every 5 years, and this time it was delayed to a 6th year. And now even the 6th year data, which has been approved by the National Statistical Commission in the beginning of December, has not been made public until now, although the National Statistical Commission approved it. What do these 3 points of facts that I've given you tell you? What it tells you is that we have plenty of evidence from other sources, including the Ministry of Labour's Labour Bureau 15-16, which I have analyzed, and the Centre for the Monitoring of the Indian Economy, both reinforcing the bad news on jobs for the last several years. And it's become clear now, as though it was not clear already, I think it was clear already, that the government doesn't want to reveal the bad news to the public before the elections. So I think your previous speaker, unfortunately, didn't quite understand what the issue here is. Mohanan and Meenakshi are not making claims about fudging of data. They are making a claim that the National Statistical Commission, an independent body, and these people are not civil servants, please try and understand, because in an earlier channel earlier today, a BJP spokesperson was trying to say, oh, good riddance, these people have left, they are civil servants and they are supposed to, the government is supreme, and if they don't want to work for the government, that's fine, they can leave. These are part-time members of a statistical commission. They are, specialists. They're not civil servants. So, I mean, people obviously don't even understand what the function of the National Statistical Commission is. So, bottom line is that the only reason why the data is not being revealed because it's giving bad news before the elections. End of story.
Okay. Straight to the point there, Santosh Mehrat Roy. As always, let me take that point then across to Mr. Gopal Agarwal. Mr. Gopal Agarwal, does it all then simply boil down to the fact that the government does not want to release any data, any statistic on employment and jobs, that the quarterly and the annual figures that the Labour Bureau used to release is not being done, the NSSO report, which is ready, approved for publishing, is not being given to us, that all of this is being simply done because you want to hide the job crisis?
No, it is not like that. The Labour Minister, as Mr. Santosh Gangwar has said on the House of the floor of the Parliament, that there are certain issues and concerns with regard to the report of 2016 and last quarter that is being looked into, and once that is settled, if it is found correct, then it will be released. So there are some things which are discrepancies, etc., which are looked into by the government. You cannot just say that just because the data is not released or report is not released, the government has said that it is examining the data, that there is some lapse on the part of the flawed survey, etc., that we have to look into. The government has been releasing, other data are being released, EPFO, other things are being released, and now the this survey, labor force survey is also government is undertaking.
So this report that was submitted.
We should not jump the gun.
Okay, I don't want to jump the gun.
What is the response of
Mr. Agarwal, Gopal Agarwal, I don't want to jump the gun. So let me first clarify that are you telling me that the report that has been approved by the National Statistical Commission and given and further forwarded to the government in early December, that report has discrepancies?
That's what the minister has said, that certain aspects with regard to deficiency, etc., are being looked into, and that is the government is examining.
Okay.
If the government is examining the report, and once it is found,
has it been forwarded to any specific department? Who is examining it? Mr. Gopal Agarwal, will you be able to tell us who is examining it? Has it been forwarded to a specific department?
Tanvi, bataiye jaldi.
No.
Yes, Mr. Mehrotra, coming to you next. Just give me 30 seconds.
I don't think, but because earlier...
No. So you can't tell us who is examining it, but you want us to believe, and the Labour Minister wants us to believe that the National Statistical Commission, whose job is to give us the credible statistics, got it wrong. You want us to believe that the National Sample Survey Office, whose job is to do these surveys, got it wrong.
No,
you want us to believe, but somebody within those bureaucratic corridors and ministerial offices within the government is a bigger expert in these things and will fix these discrepancies and give us the data. Is that what you're saying, Mr. Gopal Agarwal?
No, the issue is very clear that the government is examining and there are some
to know the
flaws
name of
that
that.
the government thinks.
Okay,
what the
so
minister
that's
said,
exactly what you are telling me, that the Labour Minister is going to examine the flaws of a report that has been researched and published
Not
with
the Labour
people
Minister.
who have years and
No.
years of experience in this. Santosh Mehrotra wanted to quickly come in before I go across to other panelists. Santosh Mehrotra, please.
No, but then...
Yeah, just very briefly.
No, but
Yeah,
there was
just
an
very,
issue
very
with
briefly,
NSC
because we want to
report
bring in on the other
back
panel.
series calculation of GDP, where the Niti Aayog found some discrepancies.
So let's just shut these
And
places
those-
down and just give the
Tanvi.
job to
Let me
Niti
just,
Aayog for
withdraw
everything.
that.
Why don't we
Tanvi,
just
Tanvi.
solve this problem like that?
Very simple.
Mr.
Shut
Gopal
them
Agarwal,
down.
I'll come
You
back
do
to you.
yourself.
Santosh Mehrotra, please. Yes.
Yeah.
Tanvi, that's right. Tanvi, you see, you misunderstood. I think Mr. Agarwal was saying that there are some difficulties with the 16-17
Yes.
Labour Bureau
Yes.
data.
Yes.
But the 16-17 was done over a year ago. Is it true? Is it really credible that, 1 year down the road, they've not managed to fix the data? That's not the reason. And there is no problem with the 17-18 NSS data, which is what was approved by the Statistical Commission, which is what is not being released.
No, exactly
so not
why-
only is 16-17 not being released, 17-18 is not being released. That's the point.
Exactly why, Mr. Mehrotra, I double-checked with him before I said I don't want to jump the gun. So please tell me which
that is
specific
not
data
being
you're
released
talking
because
about.
those discrepancies or some
So, Mr. Gopal Agarwal,
gaps
one more
have been
time I'll ask you the
found which
question.
the government think that they want
May I
to
come in, Phil?
examining.
Which one is the government examining? 2016, 2017
Yeah, the
or the
issue
one
is
that was submitted
that the-
last month?
No, what I understand from the statement of the minister is that the report which is at present not released, the government is examining them, whether
No,
those
sir. So
gaps or flaws
that's
or
the
whatever
point
the
here.
government
That
thinks.
okay,
There
okay,
are
Gopal
some
Agarwal.
gaps in the survey have been fixed. And even one more point, one more important point I want to make is that this labor survey report only looks into 8 areas of economy, and it leaves out lot many areas. And what the government has said, that out of the total labor force of around 50 crores, this covers only 2.5 crores. So there are so many gaps. It is not complete. It doesn't look into how the jobs and employment of self-employment, entrepreneurship, and even informal sectors are not covered within that circle, and it creates more confusion into the whole system. So suppose some report or statistical report which is based on sample survey, which does not cover the whole gamut of the surveys, and it creates a false impression, or it may create incomplete data on which based economy is working and policy decisions are taken. The government is within its right to re-examine.
Of course, the
What
government is
the
within the right to
problem?
shut down
If the
all of
government
these
is also coming out
organizations,
with an improved
like
version.
you shut down the Planning Commission and then brought in a Niti Aayog, like you
No,
gave Niti Aayog
nobody is setting down.
the responsibility of coming up with a new GDP series, and you excluded this. Just shut this commission down as well. You already have your new metrics in place, whether it's the Mudra Yojana or the EPFO. Use those indicators and come up with a new
the
way of
institution is
calculating
intact,
jobs
and
and just dismiss this. Suleiman Khan, that's what is
No.
being told to us right now, that the existing calculation for
No,
employment,
but
whatever
institution
it is not credible. It doesn't include all
nobody
sectors.
is
One minute, Mr.
disowning
Gopal
the
Agarwal. I have
institution.
2 more panelists. Let me go to them. We heard you. We heard your point. Now let me bring in the Congress spokesperson as well and ask him this question. Then why were you, Mr. Suleiman Khan, giving us data all this while which wasn't credible, which didn't include all sectors of employment as the BJP is claiming now?
I think it's really surprising that a commission which has been, formulated or formed to perform a particular task, that is to collect data from all over the country and release to the public. One of the function is to have public trust in the data which has been collected by National Statistical Commission, to collect it and to release to the public. The public trust should be there, one of the important function. And it is an autonomous body. I think the data collected and released by NSC is most relevant. This is the first time I am hearing that the minister or the government are, some super experts to collect, analyze the data and then release. I think it is not the case. The case is that the government is not comfortable with the statistics which have come after, thorough and extensive surveys, like the job or employment data for 16-17 or 17-18. That is one of the reasons why these part-time members of the commission have resigned. This is one of the reasons why the government is so jittery. One, this is an election year. If the data is released, of the report is released or the data is released as which has been vetted by the commission at this time, which is not suiting the government's performance, or which is actually revealing the misgovernance or the failed promises, I think therefore they don't want the data to be released. One. Second, they have actually promised 10% reservation in jobs. So people will get to know when there are no jobs whom they are fooling. So I think this government is completely exposed, and this is one more constitutional body or institution which has been badly damaged and demeaned. It was one of the institutions which people trusted for collection of data and statistics, and the data is released through it. So after CBI, RBI, CVC, CBDT, even Supreme Court has to done now this NSC is, it's almost dead, as what Mr. Chitambram has said, and it will be reborn very soon. I think in May or June, when Congress party comes back to power, and the people's trust will be restored in these institutions.
Okay. Let me also bring in Mr. N.C. Saxena, is former Planning Commission member. Mr. Saxena, thank you for patiently waiting by. I'll come back to you, Mr. Gopal Agarwal. Please note down all your answers.
A case parrot about CBI in...
Yes, I will come back to you. Do keep in mind your answer and then you can give it. But Mr. Saxena hasn't spoken yet, and my apologies for making him wait for 30 minutes. Mr. Saxena, what is your view of these developments? There were some people who came out earlier in the day and said, oh, these guys belong to the Congress party. They are being used as political pawns and they're simply attacking the government. But the fact of the matter is this is supposed to be an autonomous body, and their job is to only give us statistics.
In fact, for the last 40 years, National Sample Survey has been releasing data, and even when the National Statistical Commission was not created, that is before 2005, whatever data came from the National Sample Survey through the Directorate of Statistics was released, whether it was suiting government in power or not, but that data was never delayed or never concealed. It is for the first time that one hears that the Labour Bureau data has not been released, Labour Bureau data has been asked not to conduct the quarterly survey, and now that the report has been approved by the National Statistical Commission. Now, who is going to examine it? The professional knowledge and technical knowledge is with the National Statistical Commission. They have approved the report, and now will the babus of the ministry be examining the report? Will they be finding out? The whole situation is very clear that because the data after demonetization would show that employment has gone down quite drastically, that is why government is not releasing it, and I am sure government will not release it for the next 4 or 5 months. Only after the elections we will see the result. But let me also say that the decline in employment is not something which is very recent in the last 3 or 4 years. In fact, if you look at the data of the last 20 years, you will find that the number of people who are employed as a percentage of population or as a percentage of people who are above 15 years in age has been going down. So therefore, government could have easily justified that the trend of decline has been continuing. It was there in the Congress regime, and they could have justified.
Okay.
By not releasing the data, government has unnecessarily invited a great deal of criticism, and it shows as if it is not encouraging honest views and honest reporting by independent bodies, which is very unfortunate.
Mr. Gopal Agarwal, would you want to respond to both of those comments?
No, I just want to say is that nobody is saying hiding any data. Government is just saying that we are examining, there are some gaps, and those gaps have been pointed out by the minister. Those gaps are that this survey report in itself takes only 8 sectors, and it covers only around this only 12% of the whole labor force population. Out of 50 crores population, this survey covers only 2.5 crores labor force.
Fair enough.
Government is trying to improve them.
So while you are trying to
align
improve
it with
us,
the
can you give
formal
us
sector
any
data also, EPFO and
think-
ESI. No, let me finish. The issue is that there is no reconciliation about the EPFO because ultimately the government effort is bringing about the quality of labor force, and 97% of our population is in the informal sector, and they have to be brought into the formal sector. The quality of job is also important, not only the number of jobs. So the government is saying that it has to be incorporated into movement of informal to formal. Those issues have to be taken care of. All the sectors have to be taken care of. The issue of employment and jobs does it only relate to government job, private sector jobs, or self-employment? All those issues have to be
May I come in for its
taken
long
care of.
essay?
Nobody is saying that NSC, NSSO or NSC institutions are now defunct. They will not work.
Okay,
If
now, Gopal
these
Agarwal,
the senior members
Okay.
do
May I
not
come in
agree
just
to
short-
that,
Yes, one
that
minute,
doesn't
please.
mean that the institution has been completely
Okay.
discontinued.
But that is open
Why-
and subjective, subjective to how you
Why-
see the situation. But first of all, you are telling us that if you look at the EPFO
Yes.
data, you will see that jobs are being created. But you are also telling us that the EPFO data actually shows you how people from
No, it's a
unorganized
movement
sector
from
to organized
informal to
sector are coming.
formal.
So you're admitting so that the EPFO data is more about formalizing the economy. So doesn't really have anything to do with creation of jobs, just better jobs.
No.
So are you
It is
admitting
one
that there is
factor.
no data available to tell us how many
No,
jobs
it is
you are
one
creating,
factor which
how
is
many
missing.
people are being given employment? Because EPFO data doesn't give a sense of how many people are being given fresh
No, I tell you,
employment.
Mudra
It is
loan-
just better employment
No,
according
how
to
you reconcile?
Mudra scheme again gives loans to people
how
who are
you,
already doing some
reconcile
job.
with the Mudra loan, 12 crore.
They are not fresh people who came out of college and started doing business.
No,
they
how
already
do you
had a
reconcile
business. They
with the
took some
Mudra
more
loan
loans.
account?
They were already in some job and they took a loan to start a new business. How is that job creation?
No, out of that, Scotch report says that the out of 12.5 crores Mudra loan, 5.5 crore are new employment.
So then please stop quoting
we are
12.5
not
crore
saying the
because
whole 12 crore loans
even
are
according to
new
your own
employment.
data, the figure is
And,
not 12.5
and
crore, it's
this
5.5 crore. So stop quoting incorrect data and misleading our viewers. Now, I don't want to get into too much of this myself. We have experts on this panel. But before I go to Santosh Mehrotra, Suleiman Khan wanted to come in. Yes, quickly, Mr. Khan.
May I just take your 10 seconds? Yeah, 10 seconds. I just want to say that it's only a month left for Model Code of Conduct to apply. The elections are near. In March, the elections will start or the campaigning will start. Why the government is withholding this data just for the reason it's not covering the sectors? And even if it's not covering all the sectors, why the government is waking up from the slumber in the final year? Why have you not done the corrections if your argument is correct? The actual reason and the truth is government is too scared to release the data on employment as they are scared to release the actual price of Rafale jet. So they are
Mr.
actually
Suleiman,
hiding
you are
everything
saying that it
in
covers
which
all the
they are
sectors?
feeling uncomfortable. And the caged parrot argument, Gopalji, the caged parrot argument,
there are
for the sake of the
limitations with regard
argument,
to-
even if you say that
No,
CBI was a caged
Suleiman
parrot
ji,
during Congress
no,
time,
but
the parrot,
we are
you
talking
have
about
killed
the
the parrot
limitation of
actually.
the survey.
The parrot is dead. For the sake of argument, not admitted actually.
No, but the issue is that we
You
are
have killed the
talking
parrot.
about the
Let me clarify this
limitation of the
point.
survey. Do you not say that it is not covering only 8 sectors? It is not
Okay, now we're
covering
going
only
round and round in
Gopalji, I challenge
circles.
you to release the
Everybody
data
knows.
within 15 days.
Everybody
It has
knows
been
that the
collected
data
by
that
the
comes out from
experts.
the bureau covers
more
8
data within
sectors.
15
It's
days
not
and you
only
challenge the
only 8
government.
sectors, gentlemen, please. It's not only 8 sectors. Those are 8 biggest sectors that form and contribute a major part to our economy. Two people wanted to come in. Before I go to NC Saxena, Santosh Mehrotra, to you, please, to the argument that there are enough jobs. Even Piyush Goyal has said so. Several other cabinet ministers have said so, that you just have to look at the data differently or look at different data. Why do you have to go with the labor employment survey? Why not look at Mudra loans and EPFO?
Mudra loans are already captured in the Center for the Monitoring Economy, Monitoring of the Indian Economy data. Since the beginning of 2016, the Center for the Monitoring of Indian Economy has been doing sample surveys based on a sample size of 166,000 households across the country, which is a sample size larger than the National Sample Survey. So, and that is showing unmistakably that employment overall is falling and open unemployment is rising. That means both the organized and the unorganized is captured in the CMIE employment data, and Mudra loan jobs are captured, and overall the picture is that unemployment is increasing and employment is falling. Point one. Point two, even the chief statistician of India, Praveen Srivastava, has said that as far as the EPFO data is concerned, because that was the other point that was made, the EPFO data, why shouldn't we look at EPFO data? But let's just remind ourselves, as Mr. Agarwal rightly did, that only 7% of all our workers in the whole country are have formal jobs. Only 7%, that means 93% of the people are in informal sector. Now, the point about EPFO data is that all that it is telling us, as Tanvi you rightly pointed out, and the chief statistician of India has also said so, that all it is recording is some firms which were earlier informal are turning formal, which is a good thing, and therefore those jobs are getting captured by the EPFO. In other words, the GST has resulted in a certain amount of formalization of erstwhile informal workers. Therefore, that is all that is being captured. It is not new jobs being created. Here, this whole discussion is about whether enough jobs are being created for those who are entering the labor force. So EPFO doesn't also answer our problem about the big jobs, and nor does Mudra. Mudra, we already know, is captured in the CMIE. Thank you.
Right. Mr. NC Saxena wanted to come in, and then I will go across to Professor Aman Agarwal.
Yes, in fact, that's right. The Labor Bureau data was certainly about 8 sectors, and these are labor-intensive sectors, and that shows that the number of jobs which are being created has fallen. It was about 6,40,000 in 2009. It fell to about 50,000 by 2016. So there is a fall. But the National Sample Survey data covers both formal sector, informal sector. It covers the entire economy. In fact, for the last 40 years, we have had a large number of reports. The last report is called the 68th round, released in 2011-12. And the issue on which our members have resigned is the fact that this report of the National Sample Survey, which has been approved by the National Statistical Commission, has not been released. And that report would have shown perhaps that the number of unemployment may not have increased much, because in India, in addition to unemployed people, unemployed people, there is a third category of people who are neither working nor looking for work. Very large number of women are homemakers. They are neither working nor looking for work. Large number of PhD students, those who are doing postgraduates, they are also not looking for work. So therefore, we have to look at this third category also of those people who are in this category of neither working nor looking for work. That number is increasing. So therefore, one should judge the figures not by unemployment, but by how many people are employed. And if you look at the figures, then you will find that of the people who were in the age group 15 and above, 72% people were employed in 1983, and this has fallen to 65%. 65% in 2012. So the number of jobs which are being created are going down,
Right.
and the number of jobs in the formal sector has remained at 35 million. And then the last point is that the number of government jobs have come down from something like 2 crores in 1999 to about 1.7 crores. So the number of government jobs is also coming down, with the result that the number of formal jobs has hardly increased. It has remained constant at 35 million in the last 20 years.
Okay.
So all these facts need to be analyzed and need to be taken seriously. Unfortunately, if we don't have the data, what do we do? We can only speculate. That is not fair. It's very unfortunate.
So we've discussed the data which is available and isn't available now. Professor Aman Agarwal, 5 years ago also we were having this conversation where there were concerns about not enough jobs being created. Now, if I had to ask you to look at some data now and tell us that in comparison to number of people who are joining the workforce, are we creating enough jobs? What would you tell us?
You see, there are two things. One is that a very important question is that, before I come to the direct question which you asked, is that this data of 2016-17, which was out already in the early 2018, this NSC was an independent body. They had constitutional structures where they could follow and bring it to place that this data was already there, computed, and the government was not bringing out. The parliament was there, the panel was there, they had other mediums to bring it out. The president was there, ultimately they could have written to him as well, initially itself. Why were they sitting over it for about a year and a half and just waiting for a certain time to come forward? Firstly, that is an important question. Secondly, when you talk about data, certainly I agree with Mr. Saxena that the jobs have been going down. But the issue is that how are we calibrating jobs? The jobs which is looked upon largely is what the government is offering or government ancillary institutions are offering. Large part of the private sector jobs or the disguised employment which is there, where people are getting employed, there are a large number of consultants who are working, large number of other services sector employees which are there, never get factored into this framework. And I'm not saying that that should hold the data to be released. But when you ask this question, what is happening? There is this segment which is getting created, which is not getting captured by government data, which the government should have actually addressed when they came in 3 or 4 years back and actually taught to the NSC to look into the ways they go about calibrating it and structuring it. But at this stage, they should not have stopped the report, in my opinion. But the question is, it is the NSC which is independent. Why did they not take the call a year and a half back?
Well, it's not, that is actually a separate report. This is another one that was submitted about 2 months ago. And that's where the rebellion is really coming from. And in fact, even 2 months ago, and if they had come out and said anything, we would have said, oh, during election season, you want to bring out some report. What's the motive there? Those questions can continue. Vinod Sharma, to you before I go to Santosh Mehrotra for the last word. Mr. Vinod Sharma, please.
Well, with all respects, I disagree with my fellow panelists that this has been timed to impact the elections. I mean, you know, these two professionals, the last straw on the camel's back was the December report, which is about employment and unemployment, which has been submitted to the Ministry of Program Implementation, which is being held by the Ministry or held back by the Ministry of Program Implementation. And Mr. Agarwal, with all respects to you also, sir, you have been making the same point again and again and again, that you are thinking that the government, which is
Agarwal? Aman Agarwal or Gopal Agarwal?
Other than the the BJP
Mr. Gopal
representative,
Agarwal, yes.
Sir, you have been emphasizing, you have been emphasizing repeatedly on EPFO data,
yes,
which has been punctured by the government's own chief statistician, yes, Mr. Shrivastava. And it is about formalization of jobs. It's not about job generation. And this is a basic fact all of us know. No amount of filibustering on that is going to take the focus away from the core issue of government being in possession of data and holding it back even from Parliament, not giving to a parliamentary panel headed by one of your own leaders, the Estimates Committee. You have not done that. And they are on record mentioning it. They called the Ministry of Labour representatives and they asked them.
No,
and the Ministry of Labour said, "Sir, please let me finish. You see, please read the report of Mr. Murli Manohar Joshi, the Estimates Committee. Please read that report. You have been citing the minister, Mr. Santosh Gangwar. Mr. Santosh Gangwar is not a statistician. He's not an expert. I mean, you expect us to disbelieve a specially constituted autonomous commission, and moreover, to say that this commission could have moved Parliament. You see, this commission does not submit its report like CAG to Parliament and to the Public Accounts Committee.
Can I say?
This commission sends its report to the ministry.
Yes. Let's
hear
what
this commission sends its report to the ministry.
Yes. For
and
them,
the
their job is done right there.
Implementation is sitting over it.
That they have to look into the data, they have to approve it and forward it. That's their job. Yes, Mr. Gopal Agarwal, your response?
Can I say? The issue is that all panelists, most of them who are opposing the government, are equating these two individuals with the institution. These individuals do not constitute the whole institution. NSC and NSSO are institutions. They are respected. They have the credibility. They are doing good work. But individuals at all point of time cannot be equated with institutions. If you do like that, then individuals in itself become an institution.
Sir,
so that is one point.
Second, in the case of RBI,
other important point.
Your argument was the same in the case of RBI, same in the case of CBI.
Let me complete. Let me complete. I waited for you. No, let me complete. Let me complete my points. The other important point is when I am talking of EPFO data. Let me complete. When I am talking of EPFO, that is not the only reason that I am citing about this report. EPFO data is one thing which I myself is telling that it constitutes informal sector movement to formal sector largely. Then there is an issue of Mudra loan that is creating. Scotch report says that it is a large number of jobs are being created through Mudra loan. Government is saying. Then this report only covers those organizations which employ more than 10 people only.
Okay.
Then there is a issue of covering only 8 sectors.
All of those points you've made, Mr. Gopal Agarwal, heard those points. Heard those points out. I have a question for you. Firstly, when you say that one or two individuals don't make an institution, perhaps there is some merit to that, but there are 7 members in this commission. There are supposed to be 7 members in this commission. Now there are only 2 left. Firstly, there are only 2 left, of which one is the chief statistician and the other is the Niti Aayog person, Mr. Amitabh Kant. So I think that argument doesn't really hold here, because you've reduced the commission to only 2 people, one Niti Aayog representative and your chief statistician. Now, if I had to ask because you don't have faith in any of these systems of calculating job creation. No, that was just the point. There is no follow-up question to that. Here is the other question. Because you don't have faith in any of the existing from Congress era ways of job calculation, or unemployment calculation, what is it that the Niti Aayog has done up to institute a new system of calculating this in the last 4.5 years? Your term has come to an end. Niti Aayog couldn't figure this in 5 years. How you want to calculate number of jobs created?
Yes.
No, already government has put up into place this periodic labor force survey report that will come out with the report based on the parameters that the government thinks. It will.
You mean the one that hasn't come out since December 2017?
Data is a thing.
Release that.
You mean the data that hasn't come out since December 2017? That is
the thing that you can ask. We need those reports. So we need those reports, that is completely sure, but there has to be a mechanism through which we understand what the government contention is. Simply these 2 persons having resigned, that they are not in agreement with the government. You cannot say the government intention is bad, only these 2 persons have the good intentions, etc. The government is giving the reasons. Now the government has said that they did not tell us that what is their grievances, etc.
That
So
is
you
the
have to
government's
either
version.
believe the government or
That is the
machinery.
government's
If you say
version.
that we
Mr.
do not
Mohanan
believe,
has made it very clear in his
Yes,
interview
so
to
why you
us
are
that of course this was raised in their meetings. Of course the secretary knew about it. We've raised this issue, and I mean, any which is I find it hard to believe that they got excluded from the GDP series calculation plan, and they wouldn't have raised you know, a stink about it. Now here is the data which is available for our viewers. As per the CMI data that the government and its backers do reject often, and that debate continues. Estimated unemployment rate shot up to a 27-month high of 7.3% in December 2018. The number of those employed fell by 1.09 crore over the last 12 months. Number of employed fell by 1.09 crore. Even if you leave that aside, according to the International Labour Organization, India's unemployment rate was recorded at 3.5% in 2018, and it could grow further in 2019. So, Professor Mehrotra, the fact that we are being told right now that we don't even have a fresh, concrete way of calculating employment opportunities or unemployment, where does that take us even in the coming year? How do we resolve this situation?
The only way we will resolve it is by releasing the data which was approved by the National Statistical Commission at the beginning of December. That is the labor force survey that was carried out by the NSSO over 17-18. It was finished at the beginning of July. And why has it not been released? It could have very easily been released, and it should have been released, and it has not been released. Even in the absence of the release of this data, I want to re-emphasize that we have plenty of data to tell us that jobs are not growing anywhere as fast as the number of entrants into the labor force.
Yes.
I want to re-emphasize some of the points that I made earlier. I did an analysis of the annual survey of the Labour Bureau, which has a sample size larger than the national sample survey which has just been done, and that told us that the open unemployment rate, Dr. Saxena, I want to emphasize to you, the open unemployment rate had actually increased from 2.2% in 2012 to 3.7% in 2016 already. And the open unemployment rate of educated youth was much higher. The more educated that you were, the more likely that you were unemployed. And for graduates, the open unemployment rate was of the order of 8%. And this information has been further reinforced by the Center of the Monitoring of Indian Economy surveys, which are again larger than the sample size of the national sample survey. And that tells us the open unemployment rate has only remained high. So
right. I get your point completely. I wish we had more time.
The chairman of the NSC.
I wish we had more time, Santosh Mehrotra, but I'm sorry to cut you off, but I've completely run out of time on this show. But as Santosh Mehrotra pointed out, the fact of the matter is that the Labour Bureau data on employment hasn't been released, neither the quarterly data nor the annual data now for almost a year and a half. The NSSO data that would have given us some idea at least about the job situation in our country is ready, approved, cleared, but the government is not releasing it, is what these two people from the National Statistical Commission have claimed. Now, let's rise beyond the data, let's move beyond the data, and let's just all look around us, and we will know what the ground reality is. What is the job situation in the sector where you work? If you have a business, what is the situation there? How many people are starting new businesses? How are those businesses doing? What is the consumption like? How many jobs are being offered to the graduates who are coming out of schools and colleges? How many of your friends who are looking to switch jobs are actually getting good options? That too is another way of judging this, especially at a time when the government will not give us any concrete data that they are willing to accept themselves. Thank you so much for joining us on this debate.